Hello, my name is Alex Miller, and I'm here to refute Jerome Redd's main claim that BioWare, the video game company, changing the ending of Mass Effect 3 is necessary for the video game industry to be taken seriously. And he supported these claims with the fact that the video game industry is not taken seriously, that video games are an art form to be treated as such, and that gamers have become an ignored, exploited consumer base. Now, right off the bat, if you look at this main claim, you realize that it's in fact two claims that are sort of confusing various ideas, and throughout his speech there is a confusion as to which of these issues he's focusing on. It's separated into the Mass Effect 3 side of the argument and whether or not video games are taken seriously. And he addresses the fact of the seriousness of the video game industry in his initial claims. So if you recall, his first claim was the video game industry is not taken seriously. Now, first we must establish what does it mean by taken seriously, and this is never really directly addressed. But through the rest of the speech, you can assume that taken seriously means that it's respect, that it's given the attention that it's warranted. Now he says that the video game industry has been alive for almost 30 years and it's long past its infancy stage, and that this, for some reason, should entail that it deserves more respect. Now, video gaming is an industry unto itself, and its infancy stage is impossible to determine until the industry has run its course. So comparing it to something like the computer industry or comparing it to the television industry is there's no statistics provided to draw a connection that those two are anyhow related. He goes on to say that video games are still priced as premium objects when similar content has on consumer level prices. This may be true, but this is not anything unique, and the similarities that he references to other industries, they are priced just as premium as video games are. For example, when you go to buy an iPad, it's going to cost you several $100s, and you pay for Microsoft Office, they're going to charge you $500 to pay for it, which is definitely not the value of it, and it's charged that much because they can charge that much, hence the nature of capitalism. Later on to back up that point, he points out that major outcry amongst consumers of other industries compared to those of gamers is equal but not treated as such. Now, I'll assume this refers to news media and the media in general as to how they talk about video games. And the news media, the truth is the news media covers the issues that consumers' viewerships. This includes hundreds of other stories, and video game controversies don't always pertain to the majority of their viewers. For example, when it comes to the economy, government, sports, other culture, international news, the video game community's distaste for Mass Effect 3 sort of falls low in the totem pole of stories to cover. And then I would also bring up the point that they actually are given enough media coverage in their own realm. It's just maybe not in the form of network news or cable news, or it's not in the form of a newspaper. There's a litany of various websites online that gamers can voice their complaints. There's gaming magazines, there's gaming television, various different outlets which video game enthusiasts can get their opinions heard. His second claim, that video games are an art form, to be treated as such. This claim is either a combination of a weak claim of fact and a claim of policy, or a claim of value and a claim of policy. He goes on to say that many modern and classic games have artistic facets, such as stories, visuals, and presentation. And just need to go on to say that just because video games have similar characteristics to other forms of art doesn't make it art. And on top of that, it's not a very refined definition of art, because if art is nothing but visuals, presentation, and stories, then if I had made a PowerPoint project in biology class that had a story, had pictures, and was thoughtfully presented, then that would be qualified as art under his standard. And it being art also doesn't necessarily entail that it is taken seriously or that it's given respect. There are many controversial artists, art is a matter of taste, is the claim of value. He goes on to talk about artistic integrity and how in other industries there's artistic integrity which, for some reason, the video game industry, or at least Mass Effect 3, does not uphold. This is very untrue because many video game companies do test screening and focus grouping, but this more pertains to the marketing and advertising side of these similar industries and not the artistry of the game. For example, they're not testing whether or not someone likes the artistry when they're building a computer or building a game. They want to know how many people will buy it. They want to know how much they're willing to pay for it, which superficial things that can change and sell better. His third point, that gamers become an ignored, exploited consumer base. Now, this statement in and of itself is very confusing because it contradicts itself. Because the whole idea of them being consumer-based is that those who are trying to sell something to them are trying to exploit them, trying to exploit the fact that they want to sell money, that they want to buy something. So this entire claim really does not hold up any weight. And then to respond to the...
That's time.
Okay.
That's time. Thank you.
All right, well, the structural issues are pretty clear. I do like the analysis of the claims that you're presenting. It does seem a little bit short on research that you're developing. I do think you've got a good counterexample with the iPad, but that's mostly just a generic example to illustrate that particular point. And the same thing comes up later on when you are talking about the marketing issues, that they look for this information primarily for marketing it. Again, I think that's probably true, but there's not much data on these particular points. And how is that substantially different from other sources? I don't know. I think you've found basically all the arguments that you can make against this issue without doing any particular research on this specific topic. So there's some good generic presses here. I think there's very good analysis of the reasoning process that the advocate used, and an explanation about what's confusing about the claim on that last point I thought was pretty reasonable. All right, I'm going to cut it short because I want to get in at least one more person tonight. So who have we got here? Ryan, you're up next.